Another 6-game NBA slate today. And we're going to do what we always do here on the Splash Play NBA channel. We're going to dig into my projections, see what we're thinking about today's slate. A little bit skeptical about Luka Doncic. We'll talk about that in a moment. We're also going to pair my data, the stochastics along the way, look at the ownership projections. We'll then hop to the world of betting, see what Unabated thinks are the best bets for today. By the end of this video, you know the must plays for today's February 25th NBA slate. Let's get into it. I got to pull up the Q-Tag tweet here. A lot of Q-Tags right now, including Darius Garland, Jakob Poeltl, Fred VanVleet, PJ Washington, Dylan Brooks, Al Horford. A few guys got ruled out right before the show. That includes Daquan Jeffries, LaMelo Ball. Thankfully, LaMelo is out in the projection set, so should be good to go there. And Stokastic actually updated their data before the show, so my minutes are here. We're good to go, and let's get into it. Check the chats as well. Lots of chats. Luka unsure of the proctology exam he's getting. I don't think that's fair. I don't think the thumbnail says skeptical. That's my skeptical face, like the I don't know. Like I think it's a perfectly fine reaction. I think you guys always want to read sodomy and everything. I think is really the problem with the Splash Play channel. Do appreciate you guys watching live here, and a little bit late start today because I was trying to get the data right. Basically, what I'm trying to figure out is what to do with Luka Doncic today. So he's not my top traded guy. That's Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis is the rate bump that he gets. Court time without Chris Middleton. Court time without Bobby Portis. And that's the entire season he's played without those guys. He has averaged for himself a lean, mean 1.65 fantasy points a minute, along with 38% usage, 34% assist rate. With that minutes cap gone, Giannis to me looks like the best play in the slate. He's also a key differentiation point for me because people don't seem like they're going to want to play Giannis versus Houston. Instead, they're going to play Luka Doncic in the revenge game versus Dallas. And I think this is a big discrepancy I have in my data here that I ran before the show. I'm getting Giannis at a third of my lineups. The field's getting him at 4%. I'm getting Luka Doncic in 12% of my lineups. The field's getting him at 34 and the projected ownership from Stokastic. So I think it's one of those things today where people are going to want to play that revenge game. People are going to want to try to get to Luka Doncic more because they just saw him have the great game versus Denver. And one thing that really stood out for me that last game versus Denver, and they'd have to get the Lakers a little bit of a boost. Basically, give the Lakers their usage rates, their assist rates, their rebound rates from the last 2 games. That's when Luka became, let's say, a full-time player after playing only mid-20s minutes, a low 20s minutes his first 2 Lakers games before that. In that court time, these guys started to get less usage. In the Denver game, nobody decides Rui Hachimura had over a 10% usage rate in that game. They basically entirely consolidated the entire offense around Luka and LeBron. So it's a little bit of a weird situation for Luka, who right now has like a 33% assist rate, which is slightly down from where he was in Dallas. You might have seen a stat that went viral. I forget it was the Underdog NBA handle, but one of the ones had him today, pointing out that basically Luka only passed the ball to LeBron on the court. Like all of his passes on the court have been basically just all going to LeBron James instead of anybody else on the team. So as a result, Luka's not really playing to the same fantasy standards overall in his Lakers stint. But that Denver game, if you were to give him those rates, like he'd be about a 60 fantasy point projection for me here. So it's a little bit of a tough balance. I think the field's going to go nuts playing Luka today. And I think for me, the projection data would say play less Luka, play more Giannis. So that is one of your stands right away here that we'll see how it goes, how it works out. Besides that, LeBron, 9% for the field, getting him at 5%. Again, he has also consolidated some usage overall in his last few games. It is basically just LeBron and Luka getting up shots at this point. You have Rui putting up 15 to 20% usage. That's the only other guy getting meaningful work. So LeBron, an okay play, certainly a leverage play against Luka. If LeBron were to somehow have an outlier day here and Luka were to defer more, maybe not go whole hog in the revenge narrative, LeBron would theoretically be a guy that would benefit more, and he's already projecting well enough here as a 5x value. But again, have to point out, I did cut the Lakers rates only these last 2 games, so it's not enough the sample size to what I would normally want to get. We're looking at about 200 minutes for each guy. Actually, no, so that's got to be, I might have pulled in the last 4 games. So that actually might be a fuck up by me here. I pulled in like 3 different rate data points, and this would be the last 2 games. All right, hold on. I think what you're seeing on the screen is his entire Lakers stint, and we're getting an okay rate there. His last 2 games would make him go up even more. So if I were to play just the Lakers' last 2 games, Luka's projection would be 59.5 fantasy points. LeBron's would be 47.1. And Austin Reeves has been shooting more in the last 2 games and actually assisting at a really high clip as well. He'd be at 41.5. So basically at this point here, I think you got to follow your gut. My gut is to kind of temper Luka down a little bit, not go crazy. I imagine I'll get him when, all things are said and done into 15, 20% of my lineups. But I think the field, if they're going to be at 33%, I think you kind of have to ignore what we know about making projections, which is that like you want enough a sample size to be like kind of confident in it. If I gave Luka and LeBron their season-long rates, neither guy tops over 50 fantasy points. So it's a little bit of a tough question for me today, and make your judgment accordingly. Jason Tatum, 6% for him, 6% for me. No big stands. Alperen Şengün, I'm getting a lot at 8,500. I'm projected for 45.7 fantasy points. Rockets right now, you have some Q tags. Fred VanVleet in particular being an important one there. But Şengün, 31 minutes, 8,500. Really the main things that stand out there. I have him in a third of my lineups. Compared to the field, 12% right now. Miles Bridges, you guys know the deal here. Miles Bridges always a guy I get some more of now that we officially have LaMelo Ball out. I think it's another Bridges day, 8,200 here. Playing Golden State, we have seen Bridges single-handedly shoot Charlotte into some matchups lately. There's a spot today where I think Bridges looks like a stronger play than the 2% ownership going to him. Your big thing here is that you do have Mark Williams and Yusuf Nurkic also in here. Those guys can maybe, in particular, Nurkic take some possessions away from Bridges, but at this point, his rates have been so good without LaMelo, without Brandon Miller, and people just don't play him in those situations. Bridges, I do think, is worth at the very least more than 2% ownership. Even if you don't think he's worth the 23% I'm getting for him right now. Zion Williamson, basically he's now the point guard for the Pelicans. So that's one thing to keep in mind here. He's basically in a new situation. I still gave him the rates that he's had the entire time that Brandon Ingram, DeJounte Murray have been off the court. He's averaging over 1.6 fantasy points per minute in that time, now with theoretically more upside because of the fact he's basically bringing the ball up, initiating the offense at every possession. So Zion at 8,500, a little bit of a tough thing to be getting, Miles Bridges right there as well. But I think these guys are both worth a good amount of ownership. Again, about 25% for me of Bridges and Zion today. And the Zion number would be pretty close to the field. Trey Murphy projecting well for me as well. 8,100, playing 37 minutes. The projection set does get pretty big minutes. Also a guy that has benefited from not having Murray and Ingram on the court. Obviously, those guys are not available anymore. So Trey Murphy here, 16% for the field. I'm getting him at 23. Kevin Durant, I'm low on. Booker, I'm low on. De'Aaron Fox, I'm low on. And De'Aaron Fox not going to be as chalky today. As I said a few times that he did have some outlier games despite that. His rates have not really taken a big jump up with Wemby out. He's actually gotten very good fantasy results relative to the rates not getting higher. So I think for De'Aaron Fox, he could certainly play well in any spot, but I think I would try to worry more about the downside here with this price tag coming up. And maybe some other guys in that same 8 to 9K range just project better, look like better values. We're going to sort by value. There's going to be a name here that I'm on an island with. Stokastic doesn't have him projected anywhere close. So Damian Bow, I think Bow. I've actually watched games of them playing, and I still don't remember how his name is pronounced. Whenever LaMelo's out, he gets a ton of minutes. Basically has played 25 or more minutes every game LaMelo's been out. Last game, he also got into the rotation even with LaMelo in. I believe he played 25 minutes in that one as well. Let me check that here. So Damian Bow, last game, 26 minutes, did play the whole blowout, so got some blowout run. But in this game without LaMelo, and again, every game without LaMelo, I think it's the last 4 that Bow's actually been on the roster. He's played 25 minutes or more whenever LaMelo's been out. Stokastic today has given him 28.4 minutes, which feels a little bit aggressive. That said, he has played incredibly well. Damian Bow, I have him at 27.3 fantasy points, and that's with no rate boost, no nothing crazy. It's just what he does per 100 possessions. And then accounting for the matchup as well with Golden State, the team total and all of that. Bow, to me, looks like the best value play in the slate. I am getting him in the sim in 36% of my lineups. The field's at 1%. I think that in an optimizer, I'd get him even more. And I think Bow, to me, especially at the same price point as a much chalkier Vince Williams, I think that at this point, Bow is your value guy for the day. So that'll be the hill I'm dying on. And he's a guy, too, where even if he doesn't start, you should feel okay about it. You do run the minutes risk. Guy like Svi Mikhailiuk we talked about yesterday, he doesn't pick up the start. And that's one thing, too, I should probably make a point of highlighting here. I'll talk about guys, and I'll give you my best read on them as of 4 o'clock East Coast time here, and that 4 to 5 o'clock window where a lot of things starts to change. And I do feel bad sometimes where it's like guys like Svi, I talk about him on the show, and I'm like, look, if he starts, he looks great. He doesn't start, then the projection comes down enough. Ended up having a lot of Filipowski, a lot of Bryce Sensabaugh yesterday instead of Svi Mikhailiuk. That's one thing here just to keep in mind. Like some guys, if they're not starting, you got to just bump them down infinitely. And especially if they seem like they're going to have ownership, like, and they're all of a sudden not starting, the first thing you should do should be to try to knock that ownership down for the most part. Even if Elf starts, this dude smashed off the bench. That is true. Like Elf is basically not topping 20 minutes. He also hasn't had like more than 10% usage in most of his stints on the court. And obviously that includes, shots put up and turnovers. So Elf is just not involved enough. Spags headline, bow, wow, wow. Yes, I am very wowed by Damian Bow so far. But yeah, that'll be the hill I die on today. The real chalk value of the slate will be Vince Williams Jr., $3,600 for him as well. Playing pretty well per minute on the year. Vince Williams obviously missed most of the year from Memphis, but at this point, averaging 0.93 fantasy points per minute along with 20% usage, 13% rebound rate, 15% assist rate. Today, Stokastic has a projected to play 21 minutes, but he's played about 16 minutes per game so far. I think for Vince Williams, he's a good value. I would personally favor Damian Bow because the minutes are just there every time that a LaMelo Ball is not playing. Certainly that could go away in any given day, but for Vince Williams, I feel like there's more of a risk of him losing a few minutes here and there, especially against, Phoenix, not a bad team total. I don't know why specifically Vince Williams wouldn't get his usual run today, so I don't really want to make a bullshit case for it. But I would say for Vince Williams, to me, like if I see him be that highly owned, I see Damian Bow at the same price tag, similar positionality where Bow is point guard, shooting guard. Vince Williams is shooting guard, small forward. I think that Bow is your Vince Williams pivot. You could certainly play both in a lineup as well. But these are your two value guys, I would say, by a pretty wide margin, at least as of right now. Again, the 4 o'clock window here on the East Coast. Miles Bridges, still top value for me at 8,200. As I mentioned here, he's a guy that's been a little bit of a secret, secret weapon for me on a lot of these slates, especially for punching women. I'm sorry. It's not a joke we should make on sponsorships, but he's a domestic abuser. What do you want? He gets 30 games. Value Portis gets 25 for taking a shitty painkiller. Point being, though, if you need fantasy points or, again, domestic violence, Miles Bridges is your guy. Nobody plays him. Nobody ever plays Miles Bridges. He is a strong play to go to here as long as they can hang in there versus Golden State. So Miles Bridges to me, again, 44.8 is my projection, about 5 fantasy points higher than Stokastic, and that's not going to change for me today. Alperen Sengun, a top value. Trey Murphy, a top value. Really no real values here besides Santi Aldama. Brandon Podziemski, who's kept pretty good rates overall. Seems he actually vibed with Jimmy Butler. There was a clip on social of them messing around, drinking some weird water bottle. I guess that was on the bench. I don't know what the fuck was going on there, but basically laughing it up, having a good time. So for Brandon Podziemski, he's getting minutes. He's played pretty well with Jimmy Butler. The rates haven't suffered. So Podziemski is a semi-value, okay? But really your main values here, Damian Bow, Vince Williams, and log in here, punching women, logs right back. Hey, look, if you can't handle Miles Bridges jokes here on the show, I don't know what we're doing. All right, simplified. I know Sotex can. He's a paying member. And guys, if you want to support the show like Sotex here, you see that little icon next to his name. You see it in the YouTube chat. You can join down below, $4.99 a month. Get added to the VIP Discord. You can also, if you want to get the data that I'm showing you here on screen every day, updated throughout the night. So this little matchup screen here with all my stuff on here, minus the Stokastic stuff, minus their ownership and the sim things. But basically, you get it for yourself. Check join down below. There's a tier for it, the Squirt Squad tier, and you can get access to this stuff updated all day long. And if you guys are on there, I think we have a few members right now already. You can see the updates I put in all night long when there are things changing. No matter what time it is, I'm updating my lineups, and I make sure to update the data in the same turn. So check it out for yourself if you want to support the show and get my projections, my proprietary projections, which some smart DFS people say you could have shitty projections as long as they're unique. They're going to be good enough. I think mine are actually good, but they are unique because it's only me using them out there basically in less than 5 paying members at this point. You want to join? Well, good news, Miles. There's a join button down below. You have to just pay money to get in, then you're squirting with the best of them. We're going to go game by game, though. And guys, if you get value of this content, please make sure, whether it's for free or you're paying, supporting the show, but please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Right now, I feel like where the channel is, we're kind of battling the YouTube algorithm a little bit because, frankly, it's only live videos every day, so we don't have that evergreen window after the fact. But your likes go a long way here. Your comments go a long way after the fact. Your subscribes go a long way here, trying to get to our first 1,000 subs. And candidly, the growth is stalling a little bit, and I know it's not because of like what I'm doing on stream. Like, I've been crushing on stream. I mean, my data's really good. I've been doing a good job. So please help me out. You hit the like button, subscribe, and check out our sponsors too. We got Underdog, $1,000 in bonus cash. Link down below. Unabated, 20% off. Link down below. You get all their data for the rest of the NBA season, including through the playoffs, under $500. And also Stokastic. They have a deal right now. Click the link in the description. You can still use the welcome back deal where it's 50 cents or $1. Excuse me. I get 50 cents off it. $1 for your first week here until Friday. So if you want some different tools and whatever, check that out as well. But Unabated is the big one because they're the presenting sponsor here. All right, game by game here, we got Boston, 118.5 implied points. Jaylen Brown is my double the field stand, flat with field on Jason Tatum. Not really any big leans here, though. It's not a bad match versus Toronto, as you can see here. The opposing team going to be giving up a pretty hearty 116.5 points per 100 possessions. That's basically what defensive and offensive efficiency means, if you don't know what those numbers are. Same thing for pace, is how many possessions per 100, so I'm going to keep that in mind. But basically, at this point here, would say that for Boston, they look okay. No Drew Holiday in helps out a little bit. But for everybody else here, chalky Peyton Pritchard getting 14% compared to the field's 20. Al Horford getting 21% compared to the field's 27. Not really any big pro stands here besides getting about 19% or 18% of Jaylen Brown. I don't know why I rounded up by 1% there. But Jaylen Brown, okay. Everybody else, fine, I guess. Porzingis, a little bit of a lean too. But nobody stands out too meaningfully. You got what you get here. And I would still try to be mindful of, because we do have some Q tags if we didn't know who was available and who wasn't by the time the slate starts, because how many 7 o'clock games we have? I think it's the only one. Yeah, it's the only 7 o'clock game. If you play a lot of Boston guys, you lose some flexibility, and I don't know that you want to die on the hill of $4,200 Al Horford if better value opens up. So just kind of keep that in mind right now. And obviously, when you're making lineups later. Toronto, 107.5 implied points. We've had outlier days lately for RJ Barrett and Quickly. One of them came because Barrett got banged up in a game and Quickly did well. I'm not sure if it's a little bit of a redistribution of usage slash assist rate upside here for guys like Quickly who have been pretty good. You can see that these guys overall, Barrett, Barnes, Quickly, all kind of around that 25 to 30% usage rate, all kind of around that 30% assist rate. It's pretty stable, I think, between these guys. Like, they're not going to normally, over the course of 5 to 10 games, get too different from that. But game to game, you can see it kind of swing a little bit, where Barnes suffers, Barrett and Quickly goes off. Last game, we saw Barrett and Quickly go off. Maybe Barnes goes off today. Nobody here's that owned. RJ Barrett, I'm getting 2x the field. He's kind of been my preferred projection play for the most part from the Raptors. But if you wanted to go to 2% Barnes today, people might go box score chasing Quickly a little bit more, chasing Barrett a little bit more, and not know that, the game before last, Barnes is banged up. Last game, I don't really know what happened and why Barnes kind of underperformed. Those guys overperformed, but I would expect to stabilize at some point. So Barnes 2% owned. If you want to take that shot, you can, even though a lot better guys, better projected guys for me around that $8,500 range. Shout out Demetrius joining here. Appreciate it. Again, let me know if you have any questions down below. Hit the Discord. Make sure you sync your YouTube to your Discord to get in there. But you'll be added to the Squirt Squad. Actually, it's just a Splash Play Discord, but there's different tiers based on where you are. So check it out. And all the projections are in the Discord. So if you're paying for projections, make sure to sync that up and get in there. And hit me up if you have any questions. All right. Toronto, that's basically it. Grady Dick, not getting much dick. Sad to say it. All my holes are empty with Grady Dick. 5% here compared to 4% for the field. Really no big stands. Toronto's healthy. If Pirtle is out, maybe take a shot at Orlando Robinson, but he's really not been that great of a producer. Really awful shooting as well for a big man. Big man shooting should be around, generally at least high 50s true shooting, if not higher than 60%. He's at 49, so kind of shitty. Who benefits the most from Ball being out? We've talked about this already. We'll talk about it more when we get to the game, but the biggest beneficiary is going to be Miles Bridges in general, and you get more minutes with some other guys, but I probably wouldn't play Alfred Payton at this point. And yes, and Bao, who we talked about in the value section. Shout out John Daly here joining. Of course, the John's here, a local favorite of people in Philadelphia, so glad to see our guy John joining on board. And John, make sure to join the VIP Discord, because I need people to talk basketball with on the channels. I know we just launched the Discord last week. All right, so that's Toronto for you. Nobody stands out too much. Pirtle being out, though. You could start Orlando Robinson as another value play. Cleveland, 114.3 implied points. Orlando, 106.3 implied points. On paper, a very defensively minded matchup. The one thing to watch out for, though, is going to be that you have a questionable tag right now in Darius Garland. So if Garland's out, it opens up more minutes potentially for Ty Jerome, more usage for everybody else. So that's the key thing you're watching out for right now. Garland not projected to be played very much, so if he does play with that Q tag, if it drags out, maybe you get some low ownership on him, but the matchup is not really the most appealing one overall. How many uniques for the main slate do I recommend? I don't do unique stuff. I just personally cap my exposures through either Stokastic Sims, or if I'm low on time, through the solver and their optimizer. If you want it, like basically if you increase your uniques, you're going to try to spread around the risk a little bit more. Whereas if you want a more concentrated set of lineups that really reflect the players that you have in as your top projected guys, that you'd have less unique. So I prefer to kind of manually control just how much I think a guy is worth. Like if I think a guy's got one of the best projections on the slate and he's a good value, I might play him 70% of the time. If I think a guy is, I have him well projected, but I'm a little bit worried about him. He's like, Bridges today, 1% projected ownership. I would play him about 25% is usually how that would go. So again, it's personal choice stuff, but if you just want to do it a simple way, I would say 3 uniques will kind of spread out your exposures more. But you run the risk then of like it not hitting the combo you actually needed to win with your highest projected guys. So, your mileage may vary. 1-2 single entry contest. Shout out Joshua. Glad to hear that. Hope that was a good payout for you. Rest of Cleveland here. Jared Allen's been banged up lately. Not a bad price tag though. It's 6,200. 10% ownership projected for him. I'm getting a 21. So Jared Allen looking like a decent mid-tier center play, but no real big stands here. If Garland were out, I would get more Mitchell. I'd get more Ty Jerome. Honestly, I'd probably get a little bit more of everybody, but I think your biggest winner would probably be Ty Jerome, but at 4,700, the minutes could certainly flow away from a little bit in a tough Orlando matchup. Or your max exposure to, that's a good number to have. I think like 66, around 70%. If a guy like is like Zach Collins yesterday, I would say would be close to like 100% play to me, but just kind of balance it out a little bit better. There you go, $68 in the 3K. Well, super chat buns right there, Joshua, if you want to get back in my good graces. But I appreciate you. That's half a joke, but I appreciate Joshua being here, of course. If you might remember him from the other Splash Play NFL streams at one point, jogging on a treadmill during a stream with me and Pete. So glad to see him doing well all these years later. Orlando, 106.3 implied points here. Technically, a little bit of an efficiency boost for Orlando, who doesn't score that much per 100 here, but really not a high total for Orlando. Cleveland also a little bit lower than usual. Nobody stands out as being a great play. I am getting Cole Anthony at 15% compared to the field's 9%. I really don't have a big stand there. But people got burned by Cole Anthony chalk over the weekend. I wasn't there for it, so I can go back in today. Wendell Carter, been around the same numbers we've had for him for a while. Price tags come up for Wendell Carter. He's been playing well despite the situation for him really not playing well in general in the last year and change. Last 2 games, he looked like a little bit of a better player. Tough spot versus Cleveland, though, so being with the field on him feels right. Franz Wagner, Banchero, not crazy ownership here. I'd personally favor Franz Wagner today after a few games, which I favored Banchero. But basically, the projections today would favor Franz, so that's the way it looks for me. Really nothing here matters that much, though. It's kind of an ugly game on paper, but, it is 2 really good teams in the East, so if they do score more than expected, and Cleveland sometimes is getting to these weird shootouts of teams, maybe you get hit on something here, but the projections, the ownership, like nothing seems like a must-have in this game. Phoenix, 118.8 implied points. Memphis, 126.3 implied points. Memphis on their side, good TV game is a better way to say that. Like, that's a good real-life game. Also kind of a regressive mid-90s style game where, like, not that these guys are going to foul like Charles Oakley and those guys used to do, but, like, it's going to be a little more gritty and defensively minded. Phoenix here, 118.8 implied points. Memphis, 126.3. Not bad totals in this game. Despite that, really not getting here with my projections for these guys. Gave these guys their rates without Nurkic just to try to give them a little bit of a boost, and it just didn't help out enough. But Booker, 7% played. I'm getting at 1. Kevin Durant, 16% projected owned. I'm getting at 8. Bradley Beal getting borderline chalky here with 23.4% expected ownership. I'm getting 11. So I'm low on everybody. Royce O'Neal had an outlier day lately. I don't think you need to point chase that. Minutes can get big for him, though, in certain situations. Maybe they need his defense versus Memphis. So Royce O'Neal, I think 15% owned to me feels fine. But if you wanted to get with the Fields ownership, I think 18%. Also, nothing wrong with that, obviously. Mason Plumlee getting 8% owned. I don't think you need to be there. One of those guys where the minutes are hard to get to, and he's probably not going to close in most spots. So for Phoenix, I don't love it, but I get it going against Memphis. Really big pace-up spot on paper, gaining about 6.5 possessions compared to where they're normally at, this 97.5 pace that you can see here. So if you want to go to Phoenix, I really don't have a functional issue with it, but high price tags for these guys, and the projections don't kind of back that out as much as you'd like to see. At least mine don't. Memphis on their side, good ownership going to pretty much everybody here. Desmond Bane, you're getting 31% projected owned. Santi Aldama, 23%. I wish it would just line up. There we go. John Morant, 18%. Jaren Jackson, 13%. I'm not really crazy far off of anybody here besides Bane. 31% for Bane to me feels a little bit aggressive at 7,100, but not a bad play by any stretch. Santi Aldama has been one of those players I get a lot around that 5K price tag that make lineups work well over the course of, just you need to mix a guy in. So Aldama, I think, would be the one I'd probably cape for the most. Vince Williams is your best value here, but he is a guy that's playing off the bench, not likely to close. So keep that in mind here. You should never really go nuts on guys that are playing off the bench, not likely to close, and not like super elite per minute producers. He's producing about 0.93 on the year. I have him at 1 and change today. He's probably due to shoot better as well, 47% true shooting for himself. But Memphis at this point, I think they're a team that feels mostly appropriately owned. I really don't need to be as highly owned on Vince as I am. And I think practically I'll probably get that down a little bit because I'm going to have more bow when I actually do have my lineups put in. But yeah, for Memphis, nice total for him. You could certainly make something happen just based off of that. But like these guys are kind of appropriately owned for the most part. If you're going to try to get leverage, I feel like the low-owned Jaren Jackson or most low-owned Jaren Jackson is probably your way to do it. But really nobody else here. Like these guys are they're all where they should be is what I would pretty much say about them. Milwaukee, 111.8 implied points on their side. Houston, 115.3 on theirs. Giannis is really the only player I'm getting on Milwaukee side, getting him 10x the field. He's basically my lever against Luka Doncic right now. Those numbers might move around a little bit, but I think with Giannis, I'll probably get at least 15 to 20% because he's going to be under 5% owned just because it's a tough matchup on paper versus Houston. Sometimes where Giannis thrives, like he's beaten up on Orlando before, kind of a similar matchup there where it's low pace. In fact, sometimes I think the low pace spots allow him to kind of wreak the most havoc there because it's guys set up in the half court. They're either going to foul him or he's going to be able to kind of maybe speed it up a little bit, change the pace, change the directionality of himself to kind of get where he needs to go against teams, that are normally playing players that are not Giannis. And he's done it enough in these adverse spots that Giannis to me on a slate where there isn't a Jokic, I don't think he should ever be like under 5% owned if he's projecting well enough. And he projects more than well enough for me. But nothing else here stands out. Certainly some low-owned options you can go to if you have. I mean, it's going to be a competitive game. Another good TV game, I would say, for Milwaukee and Houston. So not great totals here. Definitely nowhere near, Phoenix and Memphis in terms of that, what you're expecting there. But more clean rotations and more clean usage and all that. And Kyle Kuzma, I gave him his rates without Portis, without Middleton. He is just useless. I don't see the point in playing Kyle Kuzma at all. He's one of the worst values right on the slate and on slates in general. So Kuzma to be at 7K is not an option at all. And I'll just highlight that because I think people play Kuzma every slate. I feel like he's always like 7 to 10% owned no matter what. And I don't think you should do it. Houston. On their side, you're getting Alperen Şengün being my high man here, getting almost 3x the field on him. I'm low on Jalen Green. He's going to be 12% owned. I'm getting 5. Amin Thompson got barely any of here. He's 8,400. Whenever you're not going to see Amin Thompson be super chalky, there's kind of the days to take a shot at him. But projection-wise, he just doesn't project well enough for me to go out of there, at least in my first run of things, and I don't think I'm going to change it that much. Fran VanVleet is out. Obviously opens up more minutes and more opportunity for Amin Thompson to get more assists, Jalen Green to get more usage. Really, everybody will look better. Şengün will get more assists. So VanVleet being out does matter a good amount here. You probably see more minutes going Aaron Holiday's way as well. Does consolidate things. Jabari Smith being back in doesn't help the team overall, but he sucks, so it doesn't matter that much. San Antonio, 118.3 implied points. Not a bad total for them. New Orleans, 121.3. That feels a little bit high. De'Aaron Fox, as we talked about before, getting owned by about 17% of the field. I got 13. Basically, the main thing that stood out to me with looking at San Antonio's rates, Fox's average 1.25 fantasy points per minute. But really, the usage for him is not any higher than it was going back to Sacramento. He's also shot 57% true shooting. So feels like he's getting more production than he should for how well he's played. And maybe that's something that I'm just missing in my projection set, but I don't have him being an absolute like must-play kind of guy. I am getting more Chris Paul, 32% compared to the field's 18. Getting Keldon Johnson, 11% compared to 10, as we talked about a couple games ago. He basically put up every shot in the fourth quarter one game before Fox took over. Keldon Johnson's been playing like he's playing for another contract or something. I don't know what the fuck the deals with him, but playing pretty hard since Wemby went out. Nothing else here stands out that much. You have no Charles Bassey today, so if you really wanted to go to Bismack Biyombo, you could, but the minutes aren't great. They play Sohan at the 5. Like, there's ways to move away from him. New Orleans on their side, much more ownership going here. Really high total for New Orleans with that 121 implied points. Point Zion seems like it's been an experiment that's working well, and I think people haven't really clued into that yet. But the ownership on Zion, 30%. I'm right with that. Salary's too low for him at 8,500. And he's the lowest weight he's ever been. If you missed that social media report, he's like clocking it at 260 right now. So Zion getting skinny out there, maybe less porn addiction. Who knows? For Trey Murphy, another guy that I have a little bit higher here than Stokastic, 43.9 compared to 40.8. Getting him in 23% of my lineups as a result compared to the field 16. I think he looks pretty strong here at 8,100 with shooting guard, small forward eligibility. Alvarado, I am lower on. Basically, the difference here is I give more to Murphy, less to Alvarado. I would prefer Murphy to Alvarado. Obviously, the price tag is what it is. Murphy's more expensive. But in terms of there being a ceiling, like for Alvarado, I think you need one of McCollum or Murphy to be out. And you definitely need Zion not playing point guard. And I think those are two things that are hurting Alvarado right now, is kind of just becoming like a 3-and-D guy out there who also isn't really that great from three. Eve Missy going to be 17% owned. I got 10, kind of a weird slate where Eve Missy's going to be that highly owned despite playing only 25 minutes. Kelly Olynyk starting for the Pelicans, not playing the same version of himself as he's been in previous stops, but his average 1 fantasy point per minute, basically his entire career. So Olynyk, 30% owned. I'm getting 38. I have no issue with that. Charlotte Golden State here. I don't know how on every slate I make bad time. Like I always want to get to Unabated at 4:30 on the dot. And I find a way to slow myself down no matter what. So unaware there's a correlation between porn addiction and weight. Well, I figure if he's cleaning up like the food stuff, maybe he's cleaning up the porn stuff at the same time. I think, sometimes you attack everything all at once. That's the only reason it comes to mind. Charlotte here, 101.5 implied points, 17-point dogs at Golden State. We've seen Charlotte hang in these spots before, so that is why I'll cape for Miles Bridges a little bit. Projection-wise, if I were to run the solver with just my projections, I'd probably get Bridges in every lineup. I will not play Bridges in every lineup tonight, but like I mentioned for the question before about exposures, I would probably get to like 25% Bridges because I think he's worth that. For you guys out there, he's going to be 2% owned by the field. Play Bridges 5 to 10%. I just think he's worth a shot whenever people are writing off Charlotte. Those are the games where Bridges puts up 20 shots, puts up a double-double, gets some assists, knocks down some threes. So Bridges, to me, a player that I will cape for, even though I think he's one of the worst dudes in the NBA. I just hate him. Not a good rapper either. He's awful at everything, but basketball, fantasy basketball, not so much. Mark Williams, you don't want to play at this point at the 8K salary because you have Yusuf Nurkic backing him up and taking minutes away. And Diabate still playing some minutes well, most likely. Alfred Payton, even if he starts, he doesn't get full minutes. So for Butthole Jenkins question above, still not playing Elf no matter what. He hasn't had over a 10% usage, even in a stint on the court, besides one since he's been taking over as the Pelicans pseudo starter with LaMelo Ball out. He's basically not, he's not Alfred Payton in the way that Alfred Payton existed that before. And sometimes it could be deliberate by the team where they're just like give him direction out there and go, hey man, just defer on each play. Don't try to get up shots. And it seems like he's playing like that. So I would not chase Elf personally, but saying that, of course, after he's been awful in legit 5 different spots with LaMelo out, I'm sure he'll go off at some point, but there's nothing underlying with the data to think that this would be a day that Alfred certainly start doing more, or do it today rather, if nothing else. Damian Bowell, we talked about enough before. He's my value play of the day, getting him in 36% of my lineups. Field's not there. I imagine with how you guys in the chat have talked about him and some other content I saw today, I feel like they might catch up on Bowell a little bit more. That's that. You have to join the Discord down below. Make sure YouTube's attached, and it's a channel on there you'll have access to automatically. But just click the Discord link down below and make sure you add your YouTube to the Discord. But that is where they are. Golden State here. Steph Curry looking okay to me, getting 5% fields at 3. Jimmy Butler, I'm not getting much of. I gave these guys a little bit of a rate boost, basically took Kuminga and some of the other Warriors that are no longer team off, so kind of allowed me to isolate the Warriors rates to the guys that are playing now in this kind of Jimmy Butler world. That said, the biggest winner of that time period and with the minutes that he has lately is Brandon Podziemski, playing about 30 minutes a game. Stokastic has him at 30 fantasy points projected today. I have him at 31.3. Draymond to me looks like a worse player with Jimmy Butler in. Podziemski looks like arguably the same player, if not slightly better. I don't know why. It seems like he'd be one of the guys you'd expect to kind of fail, come back down to earth with Jimmy Butler, being on the team and doing some similar stuff, adding rebounds, adding assists and all that. Podziemski kind of playing well as the number 3 offensive creator on the team. So I'm willing to go to him. The field's at 22%. I got 24. Moody, nothing, no big stands here, really. Just 10% for the field. I don't think he's a good play, but 27-minute projection's not bad. And the last game of the slate, we talked about this one a lot earlier in the video, so if you want to scroll back, you can. We got Dallas here. Obviously, no Luka Doncic on their side. Still missing their bigs as well, with Gafford and Lively out, and Anthony Davis as well. Nobody here looks great, though. Gave these guys the rate boost here. PJ Washington, I have 2.5 points higher than Stokastic. Kyrie Irving, 0.9 points higher, but they still didn't come out for me in the Sims, so I don't think they're a priority. Max Christie, the price tag's kind of leveled out. His minutes have also leveled out now that he's not starting, but playing kind of starter-level minutes off the bench. He's okay. Like, I still don't mind Max Christie if I got him in lineups. I wouldn't be mad about it. But 5%, I think, for this slate, there's more than enough other options for Matt Chris to go to instead of Max Christie today. And Najee Marshall, a little bit above the field on him. Dante Exum, a little bit above on him. But really not stands I like very much. And practically, I think this will whittle down throughout the night. If there's any better value that opens up. And also, frankly, I'm only playing 30 lineups today practically, but I pull the sim exposure from my top 150. So, I usually don't get some of the shitty guys that I don't see a case for quite as much in lineups. So just keep that in mind. Well, whenever we talk about it and I say a player's not going to hit, that is always the risk you run as a content creator. But yeah, I got to say for Alfred Payton, though, I went through every game today because I just wanted to really take a look to make sure, because I was knocking Elf's rates down to just what he played, what he's played at so far for Charlotte. He legit doesn't get above a 10% usage rate in any game. He doesn't even create assists anymore. He's just out there as a body. And I get it because he's just on 10-day deals. So I wouldn't shock me if the Hornets are telling him hey, when you get up the court, you're literally just bringing the ball up, just give it to somebody else. And that's the way he plays if you watch a game. And that's why sometimes I know people don't want to watch shitty basketball, but you learn a lot watching the Hornets, even though nobody wants to watch them. The Lakers, 121 implied points on their side. My Luka Doncic fade is pretty pronounced here. 34% for the field projected by Stokastic. I'm getting 12. LeBron, 9% for the field. I'm getting 5. Rui Hachimura, I'm low on as well. Jackson Hayes, I'm with the field. Dorian Finney-Smith, I'm with it. No big stands here. I don't know what I'm going to do with Luka. I don't want to be totally naked on Luka because, obviously, this is a spot. If ever you would expect a revenge game, it's a guy who has the ball in his hands a lot. The team knows the situation. They even had this little war cry kind of speech from JJ Redick after the Denver game talking about how Luka's the real Luka now. The guys are cheering for him. He can absolutely go off here. But I think the ownership's a little bit heavy for him, and there's some ways you can project him to be a little bit higher. As I mentioned earlier in the video, if I gave him rates just from the Denver game, and basically where the Lakers, everybody besides LeBron and Austin Reeves, I forgot to mention, nobody did anything in that game. They all just basically sat around, played good defense, and didn't touch the ball. If that happens again, Luka's probably going to put up 60 fantasy points here, and that might not bury you, but it's probably enough to at least make him have a good shot at being in a winning lineup, even in the largest tournaments. But I think you probably win more money playing conservatively on Luka. So what I'll probably do is juke the rates a little bit to get him to 25% owned. That feels right for me. But honestly, 34% for the field. It wouldn't shock if you got to 40. People are going to play the revenge because Luka, you can play revenge in a guy who gets a lot of usage and is legit leaving one of the most kind of toxic breakups we've seen in the NBA in a while. And, and the projections aren't too far off. But, I'm playing with the projections for me and doing this every day. I would say I have some legit downside concern for Luka's median projection. I think in some cases, if you just took the season-long rates for everybody in the Lakers right now, didn't touch anything, Luka would be about a 49-50 fantasy point projection, which is okay at 10-5, and he could still hit, the upper band of that, but it's not guaranteed production I think some projection systems might have him for. But that's the slate game by game here. Now we've got to go to the world of betting. We got to learn more about Unabated and what they're doing over there. Of course, we're going to sim some DFS lineups a little bit as well using Stokastic's data. But now let's learn about Unabated's conditional NBA projections you get for yourself right now with that little link in the description. And here's that video right now. Expert NBA projections, another way to get projections too. One mine with Unabated and you'll be winning every tournament. I'm sure that's how that goes. Of course, players, you can rule them in, rule them out. I do not have conditional projections, nor the fine-tooth comb that Unabated provides every day, led by Justin Fan, formerly of Basketball Monster and Fantasy Labs. He's got to create all the news alerts that Underdog and a lot of other companies use to get those on Unabated as well. And we're going to see here some sweet graphs of Unabated distributions for you. Everybody loves distributions. You can see them graphed out for yourself, or you just look at pretty graphs. Same thing. Community, Discord. Everybody's on Discord, myself included. You got to get on there. And there you go. Walk through them. Count your money. Unabated.com/NBA. You can see here the chart of earnings you would have if you placed every bet with a 5% or higher sim ROI. $100 units, you'd be up $40,000 if you're chasing along here 30 minutes before tip-off since the season started. Obviously, the season isn't, you're not getting the whole season now. You still have basically the entire playoffs. You're going to get similar results on the home stretch. So check it out for yourself. Unabated, promo code SPLASH, get 20% off. Just click the link in the description. It'll take you right over there, and you can use the promo code or take the other deals they have going right now. And let's get going here. Playing with fire if you fade Luka, it's just DFS. It's just DFS. Whatever, we say it a million times here, and it's the most important lesson you'll ever have from DFS, which I think Nerdy Tenor has beaten into my head from watching content with him and Davis and Brick for a while. But like, it's, I think, one of the best things you could ever learn in DFS is like, whatever makes you uncomfortable also makes everybody else uncomfortable. And that is sometimes the most important thing you can do for yourself. So your Q tag guys right now, meaning we won't have these teams in the projection set. Dylan Brooks, Q tag. Darius Garland, Q tag, Al Horford, Jakob Poeltl, Fred VanVleet, PJ Washington. So we're going to be down a few teams here and we send this stuff out, but those guys are all the projection sets that we have today. And let us see what we get from our remaining teams. There's got to be at least like one team. Here we go. We got a couple teams here. Orlando, Pelicans, Spurs. Those are teams we'll see that have no Q tags available. Milwaukee, that's good. All right, we'll have enough. Just making sure we're pulling everything in here for our best bets. And guys, again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you are new around here. It goes a long way for me. Just one guy running an NFL channel, an NBA channel. And if you are an NFL Splash Play fan, I'll be doing a draft tomorrow. I put the YouTube event up. That's coming up here while we still wait for finality on our Underdog deal, which is going to the fucking, what, the 11th hour? I don't even know. 12th hour? 15th hour at this point? Tyus Jones under 5.5 points, minus 105 odds on DraftKings. It gets you 13.2% EV. PrizePicks and Underdog still 7% EV, so bettable. You can bet it on FanDuel too. So good to go on all the sites. Tyus Jones today under 5.5 points. And yep, it's the same line everywhere. Julian Champagny under 7.5 points, minus 105 odds on DraftKings Sportsbook, gets you 9.6% EV. And again, this is what you're looking at here where we talk about that graph, these green numbers here after you hit that simulate button. These are the sim ROIs we're looking for. So everything over a 5% one is what you're good to go with based upon back testing. But Julian Champagny under 7.5, good on DraftKings. You probably don't want it on PrizePicks and Underdog because it's out of that 5% or higher range. Eve Missy, 7.4% EV for over 6.5 points. That one is good to go at minus 111 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook. Not available in the line we want to see or the EV we want to see on the other books. Kevin Porter Jr. under 7.5 points, good to go on PrizePicks and Underdog with the usual pricing on there. 6.8% EV for Kevin Porter under 7.5 points. You probably don't want it on DraftKings or FanDuel. Stephon Castle over 12.5 points. That one looks good on FanDuel Sportsbook only. A 6.1% EV on there. Brooke Lopez under 12.5 points. Good to go on FanDuel Sportsbook where it's minus 130 odds, getting you 5% EV. And Austin Reeves, if you want to add one more on FanDuel, 4.9% EV on there. Minus 122 odds for Austin Reeves hit over 17.5 points. And they have him for 19.3. So pretty juicy projection on old Austin Reeves today. Rebounds up next. Same thing here. DFS is a game of playing with fire. Sure. It's ultimately just a game of being willing to trade back and forth. Like yesterday, I had some lineups that were, once again, the king of the 4-point play. I was top 10 in the 4-point play for a while. Then the stupid results of the Thunder game going late fucked me up a little bit, where if I, like, there was a period where Filipowski would have maybe driven me to be like top 5. I don't think I would have won no matter what. But because like SGA got there, and I think Naz Reid got there, threw off some lineups that were good. But basically it's like I lost, I don't know, like 50 out of 250 I put in yesterday. So I'm like, that's not bad. If you lose fucking 20% of your money, you're like, all right, that's fine. That's honestly, to me, that's the DFS gold standards, being willing to trade a little bit day to day. And it's worse if you're playing more money because you have to be willing to lose like basically 1 month straight for many of the top DFS pros out there. Kevin Porter Jr. under 2.5 rebounds. That's neither here nor there. Kevin Porter Jr. under 2.5 rebounds, 19.6% EV at minus 105 odds on DraftKings Sportsbook. Also good in your pick'em sites. We're 13.1% EV. A line not available on FanDuel, but Kevin Porter Jr. under 2.5 rebounds. Take it anywhere else you can get it. The pick'em sites and DraftKings Sportsbook. Bruce Brown under 3.5 rebounds. Good to go on PrizePicks, 16.8% EV. Not available anywhere else. So Bruce Brown only on PrizePicks. And for what it's worth, Bruce Brown on the Pelicans is like doing nothing out there. Like he on Toronto was like he was playing hard for a while, like kind of getting the usage up, rebounding, assisting more, kind of like he's done in the G League in the past. Now, because I think he got traded somewhere that doesn't matter, he's like barely playing with any effort. Maybe playing more defensive effort too, but he's just fucking useless out there fantasy wise. Jimmy Butler, 16.3% EV. But if the guys were out, you'd play Bruce Brown. But like in general, don't be surprised to see unders on him because he's fucking useless out there. He's PJ Tucker right now out there. Jimmy Butler under 5.5 rebounds, 16.3% EV on your pick'em sites, both PrizePicks and Underdog. DraftKings and FanDuel, you can play it on as well. So Grand Slam, all the sites for Jimmy Butler under 5.5 rebounds. Desmond Bain under over 5.5 rebounds here, looking good at plus 112 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook and also plus 100 odds on DraftKings Sportsbook. You don't want that on minus money on the pick'em sites. And that's the important thing to note here. A plus money bet versus a minus 118. That flip there means literally the difference between a bet you would love to have and a bet you probably don't want to take. Gary Trent, of course, Jr. Don't take his dad. 15% EV here for Gary Trent under 2.5 rebounds today on PrizePicks. Gets you 15% EV. You probably don't want that anywhere else, but take Gary Trent on PrizePicks under 2.5 rebounds. Carlo Matkovic under 5.5 rebounds, 14.2% EV for the lower on Underdog, not available anywhere else. And Nick Smith under 2.5 rebounds, plus 110 odds on DraftKings Sportsbook. You got two healthy centers there, so the 12.8% EV feels pretty good for Nick Smith. Assists coming up next. The Wolves game was bonkers. Yeah, the block two by Anthony Edwards. Like the Wolves, I feel like justifiably get a lot of shit this year. They honestly, to me, are a better team without Julius Randle, though. Like, and you saw it with McDaniels hitting his upside a little bit more too. Like, it just makes this team a little more loose, a little more defensively minded, and freeing Jaden McDaniels is like one of those things that I think they probably should do more. Less Randle, more McDaniels. 4-point play is a dick tickler at this climax. It's easier than the bigger tournament. I'll say that, even though I have won the bigger tournament, I've not won the 4-point play. But yeah, look, it's any NBA DFS tournament with more than 10,000 people is usually going to be tough. Even more than 5,000 is going to be tough. Dorian Finney-Smith over 0.5 assists, looking like your best bet right now. Only on PrizePicks, 27.2% EV on there. And Finney-Smith going to play a lot of minutes today. So, and give the ball up to Luka and LeBron probably anytime he touches the ball. CJ McCollum under 4.5 assists, looking on your pick'em sites and also good on DraftKings, but better on your pick'em sites for CJ McCollum under 4.5 assists today. Again, he's not playing point guard. It's point Zion. LeBron James under 7.5 assists, 12.2% EV for him right now on DraftKings Sportsbook at plus 120 odds. Also good on FanDuel, under 7.5 assists there, plus 116. And you can bet it on PrizePicks as well, but not Underdog. Underdog has killed the lines, as they always do with unabated lines pretty shortly after they come out. Kyle Kuzma, 10% EV for over 2.5 assists on PrizePicks. Still bettable on DraftKings as well for over 2.5 on there at minus 130 odds. Bruce Brown under 1.5 assists. Bruce Brown under is very in fashion today. 9.7% EV for Bruce Brown at minus 145 odds under 1.5 assists. Stephon Castle, 7.5% EV for over 2.5 assists. That one's going to go on PrizePicks, but nowhere else. And Chris Paul on DraftKings, over 6.5 assists today at minus 140 odds. He gains a lot from not having Wemby out there, even everybody wants to play De'Aaron Fox. But Chris Paul, chalky for me today and looking like a good bet for assists. Last but not least, our PRAs. We'll do a DFS sim call today. No deeper dive for me today. This is all the content you're getting out of me. So please make sure to hit that like button. Please make sure to subscribe. It does go a long way from here. As every day, I try to do the best I can to make sure I give you guys the best info. And that sometimes is some brave stands on guys that you don't hear about anywhere else, like old Damian Bow. And sometimes it's Miles Bridges. It's honestly a lot of those. It's a lot of Hornets. Very frequently Hornets. When LaMelo's out, the mice will play. Tyus Jones under 10.5 PRAs, looking like your best PRAs bet today, getting 16% EV at plus 100 odds on DraftKings. Still bettable on PrizePicks, but not available on Underdog and FanDuel for Tyus Jones under 10.5 PRAs. Carlo Matkovic under 14.5 PRAs. That gets you 14.8% EV for the lower on Underdog. Not available anywhere else for Carlo, though. Seems like they have not hit these lines yet. I swear to God, they must update per category because like you see them slowly getting stricken out. If these all disappear as I talk, then we'll know what Underdog is doing. Jimmy Butler under 31 PRAs, 13.4% EV. Looking good on PrizePicks, a little bit less good on Underdog where it's under 30.5, but playable on both and playable on DraftKings and FanDuel as well. So Jimmy Butler under 30.5 PRAs, under 31, whatever you need to get, they're all playable. Kevin Porter Jr., 12.3% EV on PrizePicks and Underdog under 12.5 PRAs. Also bettable on DraftKings under 12.5 there, minus 125 odds. Gets you 9.4% EV. Nick Smith, 10.7% EV on under 19.5 PRAs. That one is on FanDuel. Also bettable on PrizePicks and Underdog, where it is also under 19.5, but slightly less beneficial odds. Josh Green, under 12.5 PRAs, minus 105 odds on DraftKings. Gets you 10.7% EV. And you could play it on PrizePicks and Underdog if you need one more, but we've probably had better bets already. And Desmond Bain, over 29.5 PRAs, 10% EV on FanDuel. And you can play it on DraftKings if you want, but it's over 30.5 there at minus 110 odds and getting close to the range where you don't want to play it. All right, the last stage in our journey here, we're going to go to Stokastic. We're going to run some DFS sims, and you saw my data and how that looks. Now you'll have no impact from me. Just going to see what another site with their data thinks about things. So let's generate these 5,000 lineups. They will sim against each other 10,000 times, and we'll see what we get as our best lineups coming up here. You did block the aura out of SGA. When I click the project link and Discord link, I'm not getting there. I don't know what to tell you. Do you have Discord downloaded? Basically, what it'll do is it'll open the link immediately and take you to the Discord and join you. And then as long as you link your Discord to your YouTube, you have to go to connections and settings rather, and it'll link you to it. But I can only take you so far. Demetrius, I want to help you, but I don't know what to tell you. You click the link and that's in the description. That's the first thing. And then you go to your settings on Discord. Under user settings, it's connections and sync your YouTube account to your Discord. That's all I can tell you. I wouldn't play Elf. No, I wouldn't play Elf. Be the first part of that. But I probably would not play both together now. I think they would be competing for the same closing time, most likely. And sorry, if you're not like familiar with Discord, it can be daunting at first, but it's actually fairly simple. So just hop in there and just do what I told you. I tried to spell it on the description too. And if you can't figure it out for me, just Google like connect Discord to YouTube, but like it will make it happen automatically now that you're a member, as long as you paid the right tier. I can't see what tier you paid, unfortunately. But if it's a $5 tier, you get the Discord no matter what. So no matter what, you should be able to access the Discord. And guys, if you want to access the Discord, it's as easy as it sounds. Join down below. $5 if you want all the tech stuff. You want my projections and more. You have to join a different tier. So the $25 a month tier will show you all of my data. If you want to export the projections, the $50 a month tier will do that. But check it all out here. And of course, if you just want professional stuff that's easier to use than my workaround system, check it Unabated. 20% off there. Stokastic. They have their deal right now. $1 for the week until Friday. If you want to check it out, click the link in the description to go over there and then take it from there. There's some other ways if you want to get projections that aren't mine. If you can't figure out Discord, there's some other projections you can try. But hopefully Demetrius will figure it out. Demetrius, if you can't figure it out, DM me on Twitter at Chris Spags, and I'll try to help you out more. All right, your top 150 lineups. That's at Chris Spags, in case you don't know. Spelled like Chris, spelled like Spags. All right. Top ROI lineups right now, according to Stokastic. Number 1, Donovan Mitchell, Vince Williams, Zion Williamson, Al Horford, Yves Missy. This is a weird lineup. Bradley Beal, Draymond Green, Alperen Sengun. So you're getting your value in Vince Williams, as we talked about throughout the show. I prefer Damian Bow, but they're getting Vince Williams the value here, and I think you can play both as value as well. And Al Horford, going to be in the first game on the slate. As I mentioned, he's going to be pretty chalky, about 25 projected ownership, 25% rather. So, be mindful of Al Horford being a very chalky guy early on, where better value could open up later on in the day. Jose Alvarado, Vince Williams, number 2, Zion Williamson, Kelly Olynyk, Kristaps Porzingis, Brandon Podziemski, Giannis in this one, and Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee not going to play a lot of minutes, but he is another value play here. Jose Alvarado in number 3, Vince Williams, Zion Williamson, Kevin Durant, Yves Missy, Brandon Podziemski, Kelly Olynyk, Alperen Sengun. At number 4, Donovan Mitchell, Desmond Bane, Vince Williams, Santi Aldama, Kelly Olynyk, Jose Alvarado, Draymond Green, LeBron James. And number 5, you have Peyton Pritchard making it. Obviously, a little bit of a boost with Drew Holiday out. RJ Barrett, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, Jared Allen, Vince Williams, Kelly Olynyk, and Yves Missy. I got to say, I don't think my lineup's going to look anything like that today, based on what I've seen so far. That's what you're getting with Stokastic. So please, as I always say here, I will do the best I can to make my lineups good because I'm gambling off of them every day. But Stokastic is a company making lineups for people that finish. Legit, the guy tagged me on Twitter before the show. The guy who won 100K yesterday watched the deeper dive, uses Stokastic tools and data. So please feel free to default to what they're giving you here on screen here. And I think the guy who won yesterday won the Sims tool. And the CEO, Tom, was my boss for many years. He was number 2 on yesterday's slate. So please feel free to default to Stokastic whenever you want. Alperen Sengun, your top ROI guy, according to Stokastic. There we go. We got it. Shout out to Demetrius for figuring it out. Thank God. I always hope people can figure it out. And if they can't, I don't know how to troubleshoot. So I'm glad you did. Let me know if you have any issues. Pop it to the Discord and let me know how it looks. Alperen Sengun, your top ROI guy. Technically, your only positive ROI guy in the slate and Stokastic's top 150 lineups. That said, it's all about the directional accuracy. So Sengun is number 1. Number 2 is Damian Bow. So they're not out on Damian Bow here. Low projection. I think he's a much better projection play than they have him at. But he's still coming up here as a number 2 ROI guy with $3,600 salary and point guard, shooting guard eligibility. We got Miles Bridges, negative 2% ROI. He's at number 3. Yves Missi at number 4. Kelly Olynyk a little bit behind him at number 5. Vince Williams Jr. at number 6. And Giannis at number 7. See, I agree with this more. It's so odd. The top lineups didn't really represent what I was looking for. But Şengün, Bow, Bridges, Olynyk, Vince, Giannis, those guys are all absolutely core plays for me. Actually, don't want my lineups looking anything like that today either. I mean, look, again, it's tough for me because like I always really do believe like please default to the tools that are good, like Stokastic, SaberSim, whatever. Probably not Roto Grinders, no respect to them, but like I don't think they do good tools. Like default to the tool really. But whenever it looks totally different, it's like, all right, like I trust my data enough that I can ride it out. But for you guys out there, I do want to highlight that like I think a little bit differently about the slate. The ROIs though, that looked a lot better to me. Your top exposed players, Vince Williams, number 1, 73% compared to 39.7% for the field. So about 32% leverage on Vince Williams and Stokastic's top 150 ROI lineups. Number 2 is Kelly Olynyk. You're getting 29% leverage on him. 59% of the top 150 lineups have him compared to 30% for the field. Alperen Şengün, 41% compared to 11, so a 29% leverage stand. Zion, 40% compared to 30, 10% leverage on him. Yves Missi, 37% compared to 18. I don't get that one as much, but sure. Jose Alvarado, 35% compared to 21. That one I'm also down on. Horford, 31% compared to 28. I am kind of down on that too. I'll get some of Horford, but like, I don't think Horford is like where I want my slate to live and die on. Vince Williams, your highest leverage guy, 32% more than the field. Şengün's number 2 at 29% more than the field. Kelly Olynyk also rounded up 29% more than the field, as we talked about. Yves Missi, 19%. Alvarado, 13%. They like Draymond a lot more than I do. I think he has suffered a lot from having Butler out there and also Podziemski playing big minutes and doing kind of similar per category contributions. Yeah, Draymond Green here. And Zion Williamson, 10% leverage for him. There were a couple showdowns yesterday where Roto had higher minutes for every player than Stokastic. That seems a little bit weird. But were they correct? Were they more correct? I don't know. Watch Kyrie cook the Lakers tonight with lineups rostering him at like an 85. Well, Luka's going to be chalky. I always am leery of guys, and we talk about this a lot with Joel Embiid, and now we're seeing, I guess, how that works out. But whenever you have to manipulate guys' numbers too much to make them look like the play that some other sites are making them look like, I always worry about that. I really had to like twist Luka's rates around to fit a very specific view of how the Lakers have played with him so far to get him there. It does worry me a little bit. So I think that take, Jake, is not a bad one. The more logical DFS take would be like Luka fails LeBron and Jackson Hayes or Rui or Reeves. I guess Reeves would probably be the more logical one. Like LeBron maybe gets there. Reeves gets there, has an outlier day. Like if you really want to get leverage against Luka, I think that would be it more than Kyrie cooking on the other side. But Kyrie could obviously cook in the matchup too. Lakers D looked fantastic versus Denver though. Probably the best they've looked. I don't know if that can hold, but I guess that's what happens too when like half the team isn't shooting. Like they can play good defense a little bit more than, and Luka and LeBron can maybe keep up their end enough. LeBron though, sometimes, man, against Washington last week, he just looked so fucking washed at the end of the game. Like he looked like he had nothing left. So we'll see how it looks tonight. The Denver game, I think, may put a little too many people on the scent would be one of my concerns. Luka Doncic here, negative 11% leverage from Stokastic. So they actually are fading him a little bit. 36% projected owned compared to 25% in Stokastic's top 150. So a light fade for Luka. And it's exactly what I said before is I feel like 25% for Luka kind of gives you the middle ground where if he does go nuts here, if he goes for 70, at least you've got a quarter of your lineups with it. I think that's what I'll be trying to do today, even though I do think like there's a world where Luka's projection is probably closer to 50 or should be closer to 50 than 60. That's sort of my feel on it from the data and having to work around it all afternoon. Royce O'Neal, negative 10% leverage. Neemias Queta here with no Luke Kornet, I guess expecting to be back in rotation, but Stokastic doesn't want to play him, but the field will play him at 13% at minimum salary. It's a lot of Neemias Queta. I guess he's leverage against Horford, so I don't hate that conceptually. But probably not a good play, especially coming off an illness too. I think he had a non-COVID illness that he was on the injury report for as well. Desmond Bane, negative 9% leverage. I support that. I think he's a little bit too highly owned. Bradley Beal, negative 7% leverage. I do support that. Jaren Jackson, negative 6% leverage. And Trey Murphy, negative 6 as well. So that's where Stokastic views it, guys. I agree a lot with the ROIs. I think the top ROI lineups, I just didn't see as much, but think the overall picture there, a little bit closer than I would have expected. I'm going to give you guys my splash plays for the day. Before I do that, though, please make sure to subscribe down below. Make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment. Right now, I'm fighting the YouTube algorithm because these videos have no shelf life at all because I do them at 4 p.m. every day, and then shit changes, and that's how it is. So your support here, if you enjoy seeing these videos live at 4 p.m. every day, hit the like button, subscribe. It goes a long way from here. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs, so we're so close, but the YouTube algorithm is not helping me out. Even though these thumbnails, by the way, getting a shitload of clicks, so it's not showing me to as many people for reasons unclear. Underdog, $1,000 of bonus cash, link in the description. Unabated, our presenting sponsor. Get all their great data, win more at betting. You could be up $40,000 if you tailed Unabated since day one to start the year. It's not going to get worse in the back half how they approach things. They're rigorous data approach. Top bettors use their data every day. Check it out. Get 20% off. Link in the description down below. They also have packages for the rest of the season that are $500, and you get all the data for the rest of the year, basically, including the NBA DFS projections that Unabated does. And Stokastic, they have that $1 deal right now. Link in the description will take you right over there. You'll get a banner ad, which will immediately thrust you into that. So check it out if you want to get their projections, their sim stuff. It's all $1 until Friday. Then you pay full freight. And of course, your affiliate stuff here at Stokastic does support me here. Half the money you pay to Stokastic comes to me. So if you want to hurt big corporations, support mom and pop YouTube streamers, it's one way to do it. All right, so my splash plays for the day. Number one, I think has to be Damian Bow. That's a legit stand for me. I think he's your best value play. He's gotten 25 plus minutes every game LaMelo's been out since he joined the team. Bow is a player that I think people are going to be a little bit off the scent of. Stokastic's maybe going to bump him up a little bit more, but I don't think he gets to be super chalk. I think the worst case he gets like 20-25% ownership. So for Damian Bow, I think he is a play for me that I will be living and dying on today. Pay up options. Miles Bridges is probably one. I would cape for a little bit. He's going to be barely owned. I think he's worth 5 to 10% of your exposure. I'll probably have more like 25%. Vince Williams, I think, is another good value play as well. I would personally favor Damian Bow, but Vince Williams is your other option there. It's going to be much chalkier. Besides that, Giannis, if you can afford it, looks good. Pajemski looks good to me. Zion's a core play. I think Chris Paul, Şengün. These are guys going to be a lot of my lineup. So that's a lot of names to list out. But I try to give you guys a read on what I know is going to be popping a lot for me. So I hope it adds value. Make sure to gamble responsibly, guys. Even though it's always money time here. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayNBA. And even though I'm not on it, go check out Stokastic right now, guys. I'm sure they'll do a great job for you over there. I'll see you guys again tomorrow at 4 p.m. So hit that like button, subscribe. See you guys again soon. Hit me in the Discord too if you have any questions, and enjoy your days, guys. Good luck. Bye-bye.